Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I call the former Vice President, Madam Aissatou Sedi.
I swear by the Almighty Allah.
I swear by the Almighty Allah.
That the evidence I shall give to this commission.
That the evidence that I shall give to this commission.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
So help me Allah.
So help me Allah.
Could you kindly state your full names for the record?
Yes,
I'm right opposite.
Aissatou Sedi.
Where do you live, madam?
Sorry?
Where do you live?
I live in Kersering.
You're retired?
Yes, retired from government.
Do you do any work at the moment?
Huh?
Do you do any work at the moment?
No, I don't.
Kindly take a seat.
Yeah.
You are the Vice President of the Gambia?
Yes, I was.
Could you give us an overview of your career in the public service, please?
Okay. When I left school, I started being an unqualified teacher first for 1 year at the Birkama Junior Secondary School.
When was this?
In September 1970 to July 1971, just for 1 year. Then I went to Gambia College. I became a teacher trainee for 3 years, from September 1971 to July 1974. And I qualified in 1974. I became a qualified teacher and taught up to 1976, July 1976, at the same school, the Birkama Junior Secondary School. Then I became a trainee business advisor first, and then a business advisor at the Indigenous Business Advisory Services.
Because IBAS?
Yeah, sorry?
Known as IBAS?
IBAS, yes, known as IBAS. Under the Ministry of Economic Planning and Industrial Development. This was all during the First Republic, of course. I was there until August 1983, when the Women's Bureau was restructured at the office of the Vice President, and I and others were invited to join the new Women's Bureau. Then I was appointed as Deputy Executive Director of the Women's Bureau.
What year was this?
This was the same when I left, 1976 to 23rd August 1983. I became the business advisor. But then, as I said, I became the Deputy Executive Director of Women's Bureau from that August 23rd, 1983 to July 1996. And then became the Executive Director later on, a few years before I joined the government. On the other side, I mean the executive. Then I was appointed as Secretary of State for Health, Social Welfare and Women's Affairs. I was a minister initially, from July 1996 to April 1997. Then Vice President and Secretary of State for Health, Social Welfare and Women's Affairs. Vice President was added to the portfolio. So from April 1997 to March 2002. Then Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs. Then Health and Social Welfare was carved out and given to another minister, to a newly appointed minister.
What year was this?
That was from April, that is March 2002. That was the carving out. Then the position of Vice President remained, and Minister of Women's Affairs. That was from March 2002 until the end of the government, of course, in December, January 2017. So that's the career path.
Thank you. You were summoned today with regard to Operation Save the Children Foundation.
Yes.
I'm going to show you exhibits 83A. And kindly confirm whether your signatory and the signature that I'm going to show you is yours.
I am.
Exhibit BB83A is a bank document.
Yeah.
It's an account opening package from GT Bank.
Yes.
Gambia Guarantee Trust Bank, that is. Can you hold this? I'm also going to show you another account opening package, this time from Trust Bank Limited.
Yes.
You are signatory to both accounts.
Yeah. Yes. I am, yes.
You are a member of the foundation?
Yes, I am the vice chairperson.
The evidence we have before this commission is that the foundation was not registered. Can you confirm whether the foundation was registered or not?
What I remembered, it was handled at the office of the president. And I think they wrote to all of us and gave us the constitution. That's what they gave us. And they wrote to the Attorney General's chambers, giving them the constitution for, I presume that's what they meant by the registration. I'm not sure, but that's what we got. You know, all our correspondence we get from the office of the president. So that's what I know about the foundation, that request for registration of a foundation named Operation Save the Children.
What are you reading from, ma'am?
I'm reading from a letter from the office of the president.
Could you take out the documents and tell me what documents it is that you want me to look at? At the moment, I would like us to focus on the foundation and its registration, its establishment and registration.
Yes, because these are just different documents. So what I have in my file is what I brought. So
you are referring to a letter, ma'am?
Yes, I'm referring only to the registration. I may not have a copy everywhere, but I'm just saying maybe you will have it here. The launching, the forwarding the constitution. That's what I have here for you. It's in your lot out there. I give it to you one.
Just take it out. Just take it out.
I just take it out.
Yes, please. Thank you. And tell the commission what it is that you want us to look at in relation to the registration of the foundation.
Yes.
So you're referring to a letter. You said a letter was written by who?
The letter was addressed October 6, 2014.
Addressed to the
Solicitor General and Attorney General's chambers, of course, and Legal Secretary at the Attorney General's chambers. And it gave the list of board members of the foundation and also summary of the main objectives of the foundation. And the letter is saying request for registration of a foundation named Operation Save the Children. That's what I have as a letter.
Okay.
It came from the office of the president, copied to all of us.
All right.
To members of that is the board members. Yes.
Very well. Can we have a copy?
Yes. Can I give that?
Yes. We'll collect it from you.
Okay. And the constitution.
There is a handwritten, before I refer to the top, the letter itself, there is an attachment in.
Those are those scribbles, yeah.
Okay.
It's talking about where to file it, yeah.
All right, I'll give you back the attachment, the script, which you refer to as scribbles. The letter says request for registration of a foundation named Operation Save the Children.
Yes.
It was addressed to the Solicitor General, and it sets out the executive board members or proposed executive board members as Her Excellency the First Lady of the Republic, Her Excellency the Vice President, Honorable Fatou Lamin Faye, Minister of Basic Education, Honorable Omar Sy, Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Mariam Al-Idrisi, Assistant to the First Lady, His Excellency Ansumana Jame, Ambassador of the Gambia, Qatar, Her Excellency Fatou Masjid Njai, and summary of the objectives. This was on the 6th of October 2014.
Yes.
And the second letter that you have to read the Constitution is attached. It's a letter dated November 24, 2014, forwarding copies of the Constitution to all, at least 5 out of the 6 or 7 proposed board members. Did you receive any document back from the registry?
Did I receive?
Did you receive or see any document back from the Ministry of Justice confirming registration at any time?
If it's confirmed, it comes through the office of the president to us. You know, anything about the foundation, the first port of call is the office of the president, because that's where the First Lady's office is housed. Even before the First Lady had a dedicated staff allocated to her under the Operation Save the Children Foundation. She used to work at the office of the president.
I understand, ma'am, but you were the vice president. My question is whether you did receive anything to show that the foundation was actually registered.
No, I didn't.
You did not. All right. Did the board of the foundation meet?
When we have time, because the meeting is contingent upon the First Lady calling up a meeting or directing that a meeting be called, because she's the chairperson and it's our foundation. So when she calls or she directs that maybe I perhaps coordinate the meeting, then I do. But it depends on the directive I get from the office of the First Lady.
So did you meet?
So we met, but just a few times.
And when you met, you presided?
There was an inaugural meeting, I remember. She should have done that because a letter was written to us telling us that the First Lady invited us to an inaugural meeting, but apparently she didn't attend, so I was told to officiate over that meeting.
So who presided over the meetings of the foundation board? Was it yourself or the First Lady?
She also did at some time, but not much. I remember attending 2 meetings in her office where she was giving out resources maybe. Then the board met and she gave her resources to the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. I remember that in her office.
In her office?
Her own office, yeah.
She had an office?
She had an office at the office of the president, yes.
And this is the office of the foundation as well?
No, it's her private office, the First Lady's office. Her office.
She had a private office?
Yes.
Or was it a public office?
Well, being a First Lady, perhaps we might call it a public office, but it was at the State House, at her residence, just behind her residence.
Why would you call it a public office? That's the First Lady.
Number 1 Marina. Because office of the First Lady has an office. The First Lady's office is part of the office of the President. So usually in many countries, not just in the Gambia, most of the time it's housed under the office of the President, the First Lady's office. Since the creation of this First Lady's offices in Africa.
When was the First Lady's office created?
I can't remember when.
Because it certainly was not an office in the First Republic.
In the last few years, maybe last 10 years, maybe, of the Second Republic, perhaps.
Is the First Lady...
Sorry, 1 minute.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear on one point. I think you said sometimes the First Lady gave out resources.
Yeah, she gave her resources. When she's giving resources?
Yeah, what do you mean by resources?
I remember she gave cash to somebody who was responsible. I think it was the chief executive at the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. She gave out money for them to extend, to build a facility because they asked for an extension. Usually requests come to the First Lady, and based on the request, she gives her resources to assist.
Yeah, by resources you mean money?
Money, of course. It was money. It was on DRTS. We all went there and she gave out money.
It's all right.
Yes.
I just wanted
the Edward
to know.
Francis Small Teaching Hospital to extend the maternity wing of the Edward Francis Small Teaching Hospital. I remember that.
Very well.
We all attended that meeting.
We know the meaning now of resources.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You were explaining this office of the First Lady. So you were explaining, as I said.
Yeah. Usually it's housed within the office of the President.
So let me understand this. So the First Lady was regarded as a public servant?
Well, I don't think so. But by extension, all these First Ladies have their offices of the First Lady. That's what I presume. But the Operation Save the Children definitely is not a government. It's not a government foundation. I know that. But the First Lady's office is it's not clear in many countries. It's always associated with the office of the President. That's what I saw in many parts of Africa, but I don't know.
Let's talk about the Gambia. We certainly would like some, at least enlightenment on this issue of the office of the First Lady, because as far as I know, there is no public office called the office of the First Lady. For it to be an office, she would have to be an appointed public servant.
She's not appointed, but she has a budget, a dedicated budget. That's what I know.
She had a dedicated
budget in the official government budget, yes. Really? Approved by the National Assembly.
I see.
That I know. Because I see it in the budget. It's there for everybody to see anyway. There's always a budget line for the office of the First Lady. Separated from the office of the President, but within the purview of the office of the President. Just like the Vice President's office, we are within the purview of the office of the President, but we have a dedicated budget.
Yes, but the Vice President is an office in the Constitution.
Yeah, I know.
And the office, the First Lady, is not mentioned in any law.
Yeah.
That's why it seems quite anomalous. So anyway, let's move back to the foundation. What I don't understand, ma'am, and I would like you to assist us with this, I would understand the Vice President being a patron of any foundation. That seems somehow consistent. But to be a board member of a foundation and then to have signatory rights to any account is what I found a little strange. Can you explain to us why you became signatory to the accounts of the foundation?
Forms were sent to me by Her Excellency the First Lady, I presume, through the Office of the President. And then they said that the First Lady, since she has put us as members of the foundation in the first instance, has asked me as the second, because I'm the vice chair. She nominated me as vice chair by virtue of my position, being the most senior in the list, to also co-sign with her this account of Operation Save the Children Foundation. Why it happened? Well, it's a steady thing, because even the Jammeh Foundation is the same. The president set up the Jammeh Foundation. Some other people were handling it before, but when it was passed on to us as the second board, I was made the signatory of the foundation and chair, of course. But up to 2002.
Just because forms were sent to you, you agreed to become signatory?
Well, I looked at it. I looked at the mandate of the foundation, which is related to really my portfolio, because as Minister of Women's Affairs, I'm also in charge of, I presume, women and their dependents, and I saw the objectives were laudable, and I said, okay, if they want me to join the foundation and become a signatory, I didn't find any law that barred me from joining the foundation, for example. Maybe there is, and I wouldn't know. So I said, okay, I can offer my service, because I don't want to be seen to be uncooperative and not to complement the efforts of Her Excellency the First Lady, who is also in turn complementing the efforts of government and assisting women and children. And because of that, the laudable objectives of the foundation, I said, okay, I accepted to become a member of the board in the first instance, and also to be a signatory, because he approached me and asked for that. Yeah, I knew I had a busy schedule, but I thought it was also, it wouldn't look,
okay,
good.
Let's step back a little bit. When the foundation was formed, were you consulted?
No, we were only asked to become board members. Maybe she thought about forming a foundation on her own.
So there was never a meeting of proposed membership of the foundation?
She came with that.
Who then decided on who would be board member?
From the Office of the President, from Her Excellency the First Lady. Letters usually come to us to tell us you are appointed to become a member of this foundation.
Were you consulted on the membership of the board of the foundation?
No. Only I was approached. I think they approach people individually, because maybe they looked at the objectives of the foundation, dealing with health, education, women's affairs. So they chose people who are related to that, and of course, children's affairs.
Were there any members separate from the board members?
No, it's mainly board, except subcommittees. There were committees that were set up under the board.
Because
and sometimes set up by the Office of the First Lady. Yeah. I
asked you this question because it would be usual to have a membership, and then the membership would determine who the board members would be. That would be the normal route that would be taken. That didn't happen.
This board was set up by the Office of the First Lady, and we were all individually consulted. Yeah.
As Vice President, do you have any signing rights over any accounts? Do you sign any accounts in government?
No. I have a permanent secretary. I don't deal with government accounts. I don't sign at all. Yeah.
You are not signatory to any account?
No, I leave it to the spending officer. The head of the administrative head of the ministry is the permanent secretary.
Who was the accounting officer? What was the extent of your portfolio as Vice President?
The extent?
Yes.
What I had Women's Affairs under me, which dealt with the Women's Bureau, National Women's Council, even the Women's Federation informally, even though they are private, but they informal because they deal with women, so they work with us.
And all these,
I had also...
Yes, go on.
Then I had other responsibilities, like National Nutrition Agency, and we had the National Population Council and Secretariat was under us as well. We had the Expected Quota Allocation Board, but later it was moved to another ministry. I had the Food Safety and Quality Authority, but that was also moved later. Then I had many other things that I deal with. There are so many. I mean, anything odd would come under the office of the Vice President. But I had a lot of things under my office.
And you had permanent...
The Committee on Residential Allocation was also under our responsibility, Scott, as well, the Standing Committee on Travels, official travels. We had a lot of things, and of course, many other things that the president would dump at the office of the vice president. Sometimes he creates things and suddenly asks the vice president to oversee something or to attend to certain meetings, meet people who wanted to see him initially, and then the protocol would come, or the secretary general or somebody would say the president should have met A, B, and C, but because he's unavailable, so can you please meet them? Then I find out what the purpose of the meeting, and I meet them. Or these meetings can even be in cabinet, where people are supposed to meet the president, but he wants to officialize the meetings and calls the press, and then sometimes I just appear there.
Okay, so you really did have quite a number of agencies under your portfolio.
Yes, I have.
And all these agencies have executive officers,
yes, they have,
who were responsible for the accounts, for the finances. So did you not see, ma'am, that it was anomalous for you as vice president to suddenly have executive authority for a private foundation by signing checks for it?
Well,
this is something you couldn't do for government. Why would you do it for a private foundation?
Because, again, somebody superior has asked and appealed and has justified the appeal that they want to give self-led service to society, to Gambians. So I just thought, okay,
by superior,
I cannot say no. Yeah.
By superior, you mean the First Lady? By superior, you mean the former First Lady?
Of course, the First Lady, yes. Even the President, the First Lady, yeah. They are above us, it seems.
You consider the First Lady above the Vice President?
Usually. Because anywhere we go to, they address the First Lady before they address the Vice President.
Now, ma'am, you said you were asked by somebody superior. Do you think that is good enough? Wasn't it your duty as Vice President to guide her and tell her that you as Vice President could not sign checks, you could not be signatory to an account, because even in government you are not signatory to any account? Why couldn't you do that?
I didn't, but on hindsight, I don't know, but I didn't.
Okay. Now you became signatory to these accounts, and I'd like to draw your attention to expenditures that were made from these accounts. You are, of course, you signed, so you are aware of the expenses or payments that were made from these accounts. I'd just like to draw attention to two of them. You had various accounts at Trust Bank and at Guaranteed Trust Bank. And in Guaranteed Trust Bank, you had a dollar and euro account. Payments were made primarily from Guaranteed Trust Bank, and substantial payments were made for purposes other than the objectives of the company. These were payments to suppliers. And I'll just show you two payments to SL Events Creation Logistics in Morocco, one for $130,000 and another one for $60,000. The one for $130,000 seems to have two signatures, and the one for $60,000 only one signature. Could you take a look, ma'am?
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yes. The one for $60,000 bears only your signature, it seems.
Mine?
Can you take a look at it? Yes.
60,000. I didn't see my signature here. No, I don't have it. I didn't see my signature there. I saw the First Lady's signature. Okay. And the Executive Director, Operation Save the Children. But no,
that is not your signature. That's the First Lady's signature, not yours.
Yes, that's the First Lady.
The one for $130,000?
That also is Job, somebody so named Job, Executive Director, I presume is Fatumas, and then the First Lady.
That's not your signature?
No.
Okay,
none of these are mine.
Okay, thank you. So the Executive Director was also signatory to the account?
I don't know. I don't know the details. As I said, this is the First Lady's office, not under me directly, but except that I'm a signatory and I'm a member of the board. It's now handled by the Secretariat, the office of the First Lady, not my office. But my only role is when I'm asked to organize a board meeting, or when I'm informed, just like other boards, about activities of the foundation or activities of the First Lady.
Okay, I'll just show you these ones and confirm whether you signed them. So what was the mandate? Do you recollect what the mandate was? Who should sign?
That is what?
What was the mandate?
Of the Operation Save the Children?
Of the signatures, yeah. Who should sign?
The mandate of the signatures?
In the bank. Sorry, just one moment. These are payments made to online suburban video.
Yes, that one.
Sandy Spring Bank in US. Can you confirm whether you signed these ones?
Yes, the second one, this online suburban, yes.
What was the purpose of that payment?
They told me it was an online video. The First Lady wanted to popularize the foundation and make it known to people and the partners, both within the country and without. And I think she identified some organization out there. When they brought me the check to sign, that's what they told me, identified an organization out there that would produce this video. I think originally she had already compiled it in the Gambia and wanted it to be of good quality and decided to send it abroad to the United States. As you know, we don't talk to the First Lady. We always have somebody that could communicate to us. Usually it's the executive director of the foundation. She always comes and explains to us. So I signed one of them, which is 3,847 from what I saw here. 3,847, yes. I signed that dollar check to be paid to this organization in the U.S., yes. Because they said the First Lady wasn't here. Usually the First Lady signs it, but they told me in that instant that she had traveled out of the country, and because I'm a co-signatory, that I should sign it because they needed the money urgently in the United States. And I signed that out of many. All the others were signed by her, but they brought me this particular check on that day because she wasn't around.
Okay, that's for Guarantee Trust Bank. Can you collect them? Look at these payments for Trust Bank Limited. These are about 10 payments. Can you confirm? These are from the Trust Bank account? Whether you signed them?
Yes, I did sign this one. Yeah, I did, yes.
You signed all those payments?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
So those are your signatures?
Yes, yes.
Together with the First Lady? Yes. Could you collect the documents?
Some of them. The one was Zainab only.
You can take out whichever is not your signature. About 10 transactions, just examples of the transactions that we find.
This one doesn't have my signature.
Now we find that as regards the GT Bank account, into which substantial amounts went in dollars, apart from 25,000, which was spent for the objectives we assume of the foundation because it was sent to a hospital, the balance of funds of over $300,000 was really monies that were spent on airline tickets for guests from Morocco, on what we are told is the importation of equipment from Morocco for an event, and on paraphernalia relating to an event that was organized by the foundation in the Gambia, which one finds certainly, at least it does look inconsistent with the objectives of the foundation, which according to what we are looking at, according to your constitution, is about helping children.
Well, I guess the First Lady saw the need. Maybe she has more confidence in institutions in Morocco who can do a better job, because she felt at the time, from what I remember got from the Secretariat, as I say, I don't talk to the First Lady one-to-one. We deal with her through the Secretariat, which is under the office of the First Lady. And I think the Executive Director, what she explained was that she has identified an events planner out there in Morocco who surely has done a good job internationally and in Morocco, and she has confidence in that organization and wants to invite them to bring all their paraphernalia, as you said, all their equipment and other things, to the Gambia and help organize this gala dinner where a high-profile lady was supposed to be invited from abroad who should officiate over that event. That was explained to us.
Madam,
then I think monies were paid to bring them over and bring over a musician. That's the first time I saw the musician during the dinner, and we were told that money was paid also to bring him over and pay him to be there at the event.
You were a member of the board.
Yes, I was.
And with so many ministers.
Yes.
Did you understand that the board was responsible for the foundation?
Well, we were, but as I said, the foundation was run from a secretariat, and they always invite the board to a meeting, like any other board meeting. I don't think we have the same mandate like in other boards, where we are the ones who take the decision, whether in the presence or absence of the First Lady.
Why?
We depended on the First Lady to initiate board meetings.
Why? Why did you depend on the First Lady? That was the way it was. Sorry?
I said that was the way it was.
Why was it the way it was, ma'am? You were vice president.
Yeah,
you took it, just if I may for a moment, you decided or agreed to become a member of a board for a foundation that had no members. The board is responsible for the foundation. The secretariat is delegated that responsibility from the board. That's how it works. Now, did you understand that by becoming a board member, you were taking responsibility for this foundation, which so far we haven't seen any registration, which seems to be an unregistered foundation, which has its implications. Did you understand that you were taking responsibility for all the actions in the name of the foundation? Yeah,
particularly those that I know, yes.
You did understand
As
that?
I said, because when these things were done, they were already done and we were briefed. But as I said, we take responsibility for what we know. Yeah.
Do you also understand that if the foundation was not registered, you were taking personal responsibility for its activities?
Well, I guess I wouldn't be sure, because what I saw, I thought this was a registration, because a letter was asking for registration of a foundation named Operation Save the Children, addressed to the Solicitor General's office.
But don't you think it was your responsibility to check that this foundation was legitimate in the sense that it had at least it had registration, and therefore it would come under the umbrella of the registrar of companies, so that there would be some protection?
I thought maybe it was registered, maybe the First Lady's office has it, but because of the nature of my schedule, definitely I haven't. I oversaw this, definitely.
Apart from being a member of the board, you agreed to be signatory. The implications of that, I don't know whether you averted your mind to, but the implications would be that you became an executive of the foundation alongside the secretariat. Did you understand that, ma'am?
Yeah, because it says executive board. That's what is written there.
Okay. Right. So you did understand.
But we didn't. The name executive was there, but we met as any other board. You know, even without, because the executive responsibilities were carried out by the First Lady and her office. But we didn't carry out any executive responsibility, except that we are giving checks to sign, and usually when the secretariat brings them, they come through the protocol brings, I look at the attaching documents, whether there is any supporting document, then when I look at it, then I countersign.
But ma'am, signing checks is an executive responsibility.
Yeah, I know.
And you're taking responsibility for at least opening yourself to censure and liability, personally. Did you understand that?
No, I don't know. Maybe I didn't think about that at the time.
You didn't think about it? Right. Did you prepare accounts at all, this foundation, at any time?
They are usually prepared by the secretary. The secretariat
were accounts submitted to the foundation?
The secretariat does that, but they have not presented officially. They said they did through an email. Maybe it's somewhere, but I can't remember.
The foundation's affairs, was it at any time audited?
I'm not aware.
Did the executive board, at any time ask for the foundation's affairs to be audited?
No, we didn't.
Okay. I don't have any other questions for the Madam former Vice President.
Madam former Vice President, just one quick comment and a question. The challenge with becoming a board member or a signatory is that it comes with responsibility and accountability for public funds. From your experience, do you believe there was judicious use of public funds in this foundation?
It depends who contributed, because I thought most of the resources really for Operation Save the Children came from private funds. But public funds, for the simple reason that perhaps if they organize a gala dinner, they open it up to Gambians, and sometimes public institutions do buy tables. I'm aware of that.
There were Gambian donors too. There were Gambian donors.
Maybe they came at the breakfast meeting, I'm not sure. Since I don't handle details of accounts, it's the secretary that handles it. Possibly they did.
Yes.
I wouldn't know.
So it was a combination of foreign and local donors.
Voluntary contributions from the public sector, maybe?
Yeah. So was it used judiciously, as far as you know?
Huh?
The public funds that form part of the pool, do you believe?
I think voluntary public funds, yes.
Yes. Do you believe they were used in the right way? By importing tables, chairs, musicians,
I think it was fundraising. Perhaps if you don't organize a fundraising event in the Gambia and ask people to buy tables, most of the time, just asking for resources, you don't get them. I think that's my experience. So you have to organize something. And they have to have a stake to pay. And sometimes they invite their staff to attend these ceremonies and enjoy themselves. And as a result, parastatals then are willing to buy tables. Okay. I'm aware of that.
All right. Now, how much leeway? How much leeway? I mean, did you have a voice as a leader in the way these funds could be used? Or you were just supposed to accept whatever decisions were made?
Fund usage, that was under the Secretariat. Sometimes they would even spend and tell us after. Except for these checks that I signed. Other things like the musicians coming or event planners coming from Morocco, I didn't know. They only come and then they explain to us after. So this is what is going to happen.
At the time of signing the check, could you voice out an opinion and say, I would rather not sign this? Did you have that leeway?
No, because it came already, the First Lady Privé has signed and sent it to me or has directed to her secretariat that she needs this as her foundation to be done. And then we sign based on that, but we look at the supporting documents and we know it's paid for something, for a reason. Then we sign.
You had to agree with the reason, or you could go back and say, I am not comfortable signing?
No, I didn't do that. No.
Okay. Now, is there anything particularly that you could have done differently with respect to finances or anything?
Having left office now, when I know that perhaps there are public funds in it, which is just being highlighted now, which I thought were voluntary funds anyway from the public, perhaps I would have not signed. Even without public funds, there is still accountability to those who gave you resources. And perhaps one would ask more questions, but it's going to be a long chain. You cannot face the First Lady one-to-one. You have to deal with staff that have been sent from the Secretariat and send the message back and forth. And perhaps somebody who should be paid would be delayed, the pay would be delayed. For example, for that video, that's an online video, that should have been, the money should have been sent to the United States, for example, that I signed $3,400 and something, would have delayed. And then perhaps that would cause the foundation a problem, perhaps, things like that. Or maybe I've signed it and the First Lady has traveled. If she's not around, it will be difficult for me to decline, and then it can cause another problem, a delay somewhere. Somebody should have been paid and they are not paid, for example. Or somebody should have traveled and has not traveled. So as a result of that, and because of my busy schedule, like I said, Sometimes these checks come when I'm in the middle of a meeting. I look at it quickly, look at whether there's any justification, I type and I sign, and they move. The nature of my job, yeah.
The foundation became indebted after the event because of the expenditure.
I wouldn't know. Nothing was reported to us.
It was highlighted here. That you couldn't.
As I said, I didn't know, yeah.
You didn't know?
No.
So you couldn't.
All I did was attend the event, and that was it. I went about my business, you know. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're saying if you had maybe asked questions or returned some of the requests for checks to be signed, you would have followed a long chain. Did you not have access to the First Lady by phone?
No, I don't. The First Lady, we don't talk to the President or the First Lady easily or go to their offices, no. We go to people. When they come to us, they go to other people as well. We get letters from the office of the President. And if I'm directed, even by the President, it comes through a file to the Secretary General, or the Secretary General writes, or one of the officials of the Office of the President writes to us. And
one of the responsibilities of a board is to set down policies and processes for how an institution operates. Did you, as a board, at any time set down any process or policies in relation to the spending of the money that was being collected from the public?
No, we didn't, because we only existed for a short while.
Did you think it was appropriate to run a private foundation from State House?
Well, it's not appropriate, except for the simple reason that it's dealing with somebody who is in the State House. And she's not at liberty to just move out easily. Perhaps that may have been the reason why she's running it from the State House and from the Office of the President.
We see among the papers that we have that most of the letters were written by public servants, permanent secretaries,
from the Office of the President,
in relation to what was a private foundation. So there seemed to have been no demarcation between the private foundation and the Office of the President.
It was a thin
line. Do you
line,
think this was appropriate?
Well, like I said at the beginning of my testimony here, most First Ladies' offices, that's what I see in Africa and elsewhere, that First Ladies' offices are very closely linked and not carved out separately from the Office of the President for the simple reason, by virtue of their positions, maybe for security reasons, I wouldn't know. They still operate under the Office of the President, usually. They have their own office there, but it's usually mostly housed.
We have talked about the Office of the First Lady, which again is something that one needs to look at. However, we are talking here about a private foundation, which you yourself admit is private. Certainly from the papers, it can only be private. So I don't know what happens in other countries, but this was a private foundation raising funds for which there is no public accountability. Yet public officers in the Office of the President were the ones writing letters for this foundation. My question is, maybe in hindsight, do you think that was appropriate?
Well, I don't, but as I said, I'm just trying to understand myself. Maybe by virtue of the fact that the First Lady is the wife of a president, and therefore for security reasons, maybe she cannot just be free to go and run a foundation outside. Maybe she decided to house it within her own office, the Office of the First Lady.
Do you think that was appropriate? Can a First Lady run a private foundation using public resources from State House?
Well, public resources,
you see,
I would not have done it myself. If I had set up a foundation, I may not even set up one. But if I had, just in case, I don't think I would use government resources, no. Neither personnel nor other resources, no even office.
It's just a question of private preference. Is that what you're saying? You're putting
it was me, yes.
Yes. You're putting it as if it was a question of private preference. But don't you think there is a bigger ethical issue?
No, well, it can be ethical, I presume so. But I would have. As I say, if I was going to run it, for ethical reasons, I would not do it. But I'm looking at, I'm not the First Lady, I'm not a First Lady. So I'm looking at the First Lady's position. Most of the time, for security reasons, being the wife of the President, maybe. I'm just saying maybe. I don't have any explanation. Only the First Lady can explain for herself. But I'm just saying maybe for that reason, she decided within her office to also house the foundation secretariat. and use, before the foundation secretary had even an executive director, to use the staff of the office of the president, because most letters we get them from the staff. So maybe, I am just trying to understand. For ethical reasons, I would not do it, because I know it may be unethical to use government paid staff to do my private thing. I wouldn't do that. Yeah.
Maybe unethical or unethical, ma'am?
Well, it would be unethical for me to do that, yes. For me. I can explain for myself.
Well, unfortunately, you became drawn into this foundation as vice president, and that's why you're here.
I know.
And answering those questions. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I think you gave us some documents. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, the documents that the witness gave us are appearing, I think, for the first time. So out of an abundance of caution, I would just apply to have them admitted. It's a letter dated 6 October 2014, addressed to the Solicitor General, and another letter dated November 24, 2014, addressed to members or proposed at the time members of the board of the foundation, forwarding a copy of the constitution of the foundation.
Letters concerning Operation Save the Children Foundation, respectively dated 6 October 2014 and 24th November 2014. From Office of the President to Solicitor General with regards to the first letter, and Office of the President to various addressees. Including the Vice President with regard to the second letter, re-registration and constitution of the foundation. Admitted, mark MS 161. Now, madam, you may leave now. Thank you.